Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, a bunch of entitled city folks that recently moved into a rural community demand that I let them park their cars on my farm property for free. They then start parking junk cars on my land and block access to my property. They end up calling the cops on me. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. I think that the farmers around the world need to be strong together to defeat an evil that seemed to come out of nowhere after generations. So for starters, I live in the Republic of Belarus and I own a pretty large farm property. In the past, the whole area used to be farms, but times have changed and farmland got turned into houses. Then people moved out of those houses and entitled people from the city moved in. They don't have any history in my neighborhood and cannot see a farmer for who he really is. Personally, I am a hardworking guy that has been struggling the last few years just to stay afloat. The city guy that moved in next to me is a prime example, and he thinks farmers just feed cows and sleep. He has said to people right in front of me that farmers are stupid. He doesn't know how much math goes into a farm's financials. That is not the point of the post though, so I will get back on track to what he actually did to mess with me. Times in my area have been hard for everybody, and my neighbor got the idea to turn his house into something of a hotel. Like a bed and breakfast place where he would renovate the house to make a bunch of small rooms for guests to sleep in and then a place to eat. The only thing he didn't really have for the guests was a parking lot, and it was an issue because parking on the street here is not easy. That was when he came to me thinking that he could pull something on me. Neighbor, hey, I noticed that some of your land is just sitting there and it has an empty space. Me, and? Neighbor, well, my guests need somewhere to park and your land seems perfect for it, so maybe I can just tell them that they can park over here. Me, how much are you offering for this? Neighbor, like money? Nothing, it's an empty space and I want to use it. I came over to be polite, but if you're trying to shake me down, you have another thing coming. Me, unless you want to pay and rent the space on my land, you cannot have people parked there. Try it, and I promise they will end up getting towed before they wake up. Neighbor was not happy about this, and instead he decided to spend money buying a bunch of junk cars. These were cars that did not work, they looked beyond repair, had broken windows, etc. Then he taped a note to my door telling me not to mess with him. That he was an important person with connections, and if I tried to screw with him, I was gonna end up getting killed and he would just own my entire property. I don't take lightly to threats, and I also don't scare easily. He wanted to come off as if he was in some kind of gang or mafia, but I was not buying it. He was just entitled and wanted to get his way, assuming that I would be dumb enough to believe his lies and do nothing. I decided to call the local scrapyard and see what I was in my rights to do about these junk cars being left on my property. He told me that if they are really junk cars, then they can go to the scrapyard without much fuss. They are legally abandoned and I don't need to call the police to file a report or anything. I told him great and asked when he could come and take away the 10 junk cars. He told me a couple of days and I was willing to wait. I guess the neighbor got cocky in that time and started leaving his brand new fancy car across my driveway, stopping me from getting out. It was technically on my property though, and illegally parked, so I decided to teach him some manners the old-fashioned way. The same day the guy was coming to scrap the cars, I took my tractor and ran over his fancy car. Now it looked like scrap too and was taken away with the rest of them. By the time the last one was being loaded up, my neighbor noticed and he came running out of his house screaming. He pulled out his phone and called the police, telling them that I stole his car and was having it taken away for spare parts. My buddy then left because he was within his rights while I waited for the police to show up and handle this situation. Neighbor, he took away all my cars. I want him arrested for theft. Officer, is this true? Me, I have photos showing all of these cars were left on my property without any kind of indication who left them. I waited a few days to see if anybody claimed them, but they didn't. And based on how they looked, it was clear that they were junk cars and somebody used my property as a dumping ground. I can show you photos of the cars if you would like. Neighbor, that's BS. He knew they were mine. Officer, calm down. These cars to me look like junk and he had a right to get them removed from his property. All I can say is not to leave your cars on somebody else's property. Is that all? Me? Actually, I had one quick question regarding business laws in this town. He turned his house into a hotel and I noticed this is labeled as a residential community. Would doing something like that involve some kind of license if hypothetically I wanted to do that? This got them interested in questioning my neighbor and finding out that his bed and breakfast was in violation of several laws. One being that he was not claiming a business and just pocketing all the money without taxes or anything. That got shut down fast, and of course that got him angrier at me and once again coming down to my farm to try and threaten me. This time, in response to his yelling and threats, I was ready. "Neighbor, I told you not to mess with me, so now you're in some serious trouble. You don't know who you're messing with, farm boy. I'm going to show you what happens to dumb field hands, so you better sleep with one eye open." Me, you talk big, but I haven't seen you do anything. I can tell you one thing for sure though. If you park cars on my land again, I'm gonna have them towed just like the first time. If you come on my property, I'm gonna have you arrested for trespassing, dude. And finally, if you threaten or make any attempt on my life, you're gonna see the barrel end of my shotgun. That was enough to get the message across to not mess with me. He then ran away back to his house to deal with his own problems. I know the local government was giving him a ton of fines and making him appear before a judge because of the illegal business he was running. He had more than enough to deal with now outside of me. I know I might look like an a-hole for doing that to him, but I turned a blind eye only to get metaphorically punched by him. Seriously, we are all going through hard times, but messing with people is only gonna make it harder for everybody else. Also, I have yet to get any kind of visit from the mafia or a gang, so I'm pretty sure that I am safe. Also, I sleep with both eyes closed and a smile from teaching a city boy that farmers are not to be messed with around here. And the next one is titled, "Finally Won Against My Crazy Neighbor." So I finally moved into my own place around 7 months ago. I was so happy. All my weekends spent working and sleeping in my mom's dining room had finally paid off. The lady who owned the house before me was older and moving into assisted living. Meeting her when I originally viewed the house, I can guess she was pretty quiet and passive. The first night I move in, there is nothing in the house but flat back boxes, me and my puppy. All is going well until it gets to bedtime and my dog cannot settle in his new place. The neighbor's dog clearly did not take well to my puppy crying, and so begins a barking war. The pair of them bark and bark until 1 AM. Cue the crazy neighbor. The woman knocks on my door and lets me know my dogs are barking. In my head I am thinking, yeah, so is yours, but I'm new to the area, so I just apologize and get back to trying to comfort my dog. The morning after, I knock on the next door and apologize again for the noise the night before. The lady gives me nothing but grief, but I brush it off. That day I do nothing but play with my puppy and get him comfortable in his new place. Now, this in itself is not crazy, but man, this lady's persistent. A few days later, I'm in my garden and she comes to ask why my mother had brought me a house in this area. I explained to her that it is my place, I bought it and I chose the area. She tells me that I would never get a mortgage to begin with. Not that she knows anything about me, again I just brush it off. That night she is banging on our joining wall at 9 PM and shouting that I am being too loud. This time I'm really not. I'm not doing anything and my dogs are asleep. The day after, she's at our garden wall telling me how I am disrespectful for walking up the stairs so late at night. She tells me that my stairs are at the wrong side of the house. This time I finally decided to say something back to her. I told her that I have not just dropped 16K on my own place to have her set me a 9 o'clock bedtime. She's been pretty quiet since then and she's had the odd comment to make here and there, but nothing major. That is until last Thursday. Last Thursday, I'm working from home and there is a knock on my door. Of course, it is the crazy neighbor. The conversation goes, "Crazy neighbor, move your car, my mom is coming over." I look and my car is in front of her house, but I'm in a meeting and I don't care. Plus, there is plenty of space for her mom to park. Me, I'm not moving my car. Crazy neighbor, why the hell not? Me, who do you think you're speaking to like that? Effing you. Me, okay, bye then. Now I go to close my door and she forces it back on me and tries to come into my house. I then shove her back out, lock my door and call the police non-emergency number. She spends the next 5 minutes screaming at my front door for me to come back and move my car, but I just go back to work. A few hours later, the police come and speak with me, tell me I can park where I like, and if she has a problem with noise, she can make a noise complaint to them and no longer harass me about it. They then go and speak to her. I don't know what's been said, but I haven't heard a peep from her since. Cue my petty revenge. My car has not and will not be moved from the front of her house. I can work from home 80% of the time, and I live so close to work that I can walk it and use the pool cars for any journeys I need. The joy I get every time I see my car in front of her house is one I cannot even explain. I hope she loves seeing that little banger in front of her house every time she looks out of her window or leaves her house. Little wins, I suppose. And yeah, ripe stars, I can tell that must have felt so satisfying for OP. Sometimes petty revenge is the best thing you can get. It is not too brutal, but still satisfying enough to be worth doing. If you have ever gotten petty revenge in real life, please let us know in the comments because I would love to hear your stories. While you're at it, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support me. Thank you so much, and now let's continue. The next one is titled, "A Shady Medical Debt Collector Gets Screwed." Posted by user Dumogre in r/ripe stories. Note, this happened in the US. This is the story that got me banned from posting in r/legal advice. A few years ago, pre-pandemic, I had a serious medical incident. Not going into too many details, but I wound up spending a few months recovering in the hospital in the large-ish city near where I was living at the time. This was 3 to 4 hours drive from my hometown. At the end of my stay in the major hospital, we decided I would be transferred to a physical rehab hospital in my hometown for further recovery and PT. This meant I needed an ambulance transfer back home. We got the arrangements made with a national ambulance company, and the day of the transfer was smooth, nothing I needed to worry about, or so I thought. Well, fast forward about 6 months, I have recovered and have returned to work at the same employer and suddenly started getting collections letters concerning my ambulance ride. I then call my insurance company to ask what the heck, and they have no record of that trip ever being submitted for payment. They see where the first hospital was billing, and then boom, the rehab hospital starts billing nothing in between. I then call the ambulance company and talk with their customer support and inquire what the heck is the deal with going straight to collections instead of submitting it to my insurance. They claim they did that. I must have ignored the bill. Spoiler alert, I'm on a HDHP high deductible health plan with an HSA healthcare savings account, meaning once I hit a certain out-of-pocket dollar amount, 5K in my case, my insurance pays 100%. I don't even see the bill unless I log into the app and look at my charges. I explain this and the rep is very dismissive that such a thing exists. I then direct them to recall my account from collections and to submit the claim to my insurance as they should have done in the first place. They say they will, and we end the call. 3 months later, I'm still getting letters and harassing phone calls are now coming in at all hours of the day. The collections agents try to be aggressive, but knowing how my insurance works, I know they are barking up the wrong tree. They keep saying they will sue me and ruin my credit. I tell them, good luck. My account won't be in their system very long. I contact my insurance and explain the situation and how I had tried to resolve this 3 months ago, but they are being extremely shady. I offer to three-way call the Ambo company again, and the insurance rep, who I got the sense was really looking forward to stumping a shady provider, was totally up for it and even had their supervisor come in on the line as backup. I place the three-way call and get through the menus to talk to an actual human and start my spiel, and the Ambo rep is adamant that no, they submitted the bill and I was just shirking my responsibilities. This is when the two insurance reps speak up and request proof that the claim was submitted. This is when I inform the Ambo rep that, oh yeah, I have my insurance provider on the line so we can get this resolved, since the Ambo company has been very uncooperative in that regard. Over the next 20 minutes or so, the Ambo rep tries to lay it off as the crew that transported me did not submit the run sheet for my transfer. Insurance reps smell blood and start in on if the run sheet was never submitted. Then how did they submit the account for collections? There was no good answer for that. At this point, the Ambo rep passes the call up a level or two to get to someone that has the authority to cancel a collections account and resubmit the claim for my run to insurance. I am satisfied. The insurance reps are happy since they found an incident to hit them with in their next contract negotiation, and the Ambo reps have reached the end of their ropes. We end the call and I go on about my life. I did receive one more letter in the mail a few days later, but that was obviously in transit when I made my call. Some notes from comments on my other post. For those outside the United States, here private insurance companies negotiate bulk rates for certain services. These rates can be significantly lower than the individual rate, and some shady medical providers think they can bypass that rate and get paid much more money by just billing the patient directly, claiming they missed a bill. Generally, that is called fraud and obviously illegal, but some slip through the cracks. Thankfully, we caught it this time, and it will likely bite them in the butt big time, but this incident gets added to all the other billing mistakes when the next contract negotiation happens and can even be reported to the government in regards to provider credibility for Medicare rates. I posted a shortened version of this story in response to a poster on r/legal advice who was getting similar collections against him for medical services, which had been performed but never submitted to insurance for some reason. I wanted to demonstrate that I had gone through a similar situation and give them advice to get their insurer involved, as they sure as heck know if a claim has been made against your account. And the next one is titled, "Am I the jerk for messing with my neighbor?" So I have a neighbor who gets mad when I park on the street even though it is public street parking and literally anyone can park there. She has called the cops on me before for parking an abandoned vehicle, and they showed up and said I was not doing anything illegal, it is public street parking and my cars are registered and legal, and they confirmed with me that I drive it daily to work. She then told the cops to ask me to park in my garage, and they asked me and I said I was using the garage as a woodworking shop and it would not fit. So she started leaving notes on my car, and I know it is her because I have a dash cam that films motion even when the cars are parked. I think she's been trying to hide who is leaving the notes because she does it at like 2 AM in a hat and COVID mask, but it's pretty obvious on the dashcam still. She put a letter there and I just did not open it and drove around with it on there till it got crumpled and faded. She then did it again and I left it on there until it rained and became mushy paper. I think she was getting the point that I was not gonna read it. One of my other neighbors said that I had a note on my car and I said, yeah, I know, just leave it there. The crazy lady down the street keeps doing it and I think she's getting the point that I haven't moved the first few. She asked what it said and I said I did not know. She said it was kind of crappy of me to not even read it. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of crap that she called the cops on me too. That's dangerous knowing how the cops are here, which my neighbor did not seem to get. She seemed to not think that cops are dangerous. I don't know. Anyway, am I the a-hole for just leaving my neighbor's petty notes there until they disintegrate? And yeah guys, I will redirect this question to you. Do you think that OP is the a-hole for not giving in to her entitled neighbor? Let us know in the comments, and now we will read a comment from the thread which said, not the a-hole. If you're not bothered by them, I don't see any reason to remove them. Sure, the easier option would be to throw them in the trash immediately, but I suppose your neighbor might think they cannot write a new letter yet as long as there is another letter. Comment number 2, I feel like writing return to sender on them and putting them in her mailbox would be better, but obviously not the a-hole. The next one is titled, This Means You. About a month ago, a well-intentioned but brain-dead guy wound up turning my dog's feet into hamburgers trying to save him when he didn't need saving. Through the magic of modern medicine, my dog was back on his feet with surprising rapidity. For a while he was stuck on carpets and grass while his feet finished healing, and after some more recovery time we got the green light from my vet to attempt walkies on pavement. The day we made our first attempt was not good weather-wise. It was rainy and humid and just... I figured we would make it to the end of my street and then turn back once his feet started to hurt, but he had other plans and got quite bent out of shape when we didn't follow his plan. Once his displeasure was expressed and we resumed our usual route, I kept a close eye because I knew he was going to start feeling it soon. He started slowing down and eventually just flopped over and made a whining sound. I suppressed the urge to "I told you so" and scooped him up. Now our usual walkies route is down our dead-end street, around the corner and then up the next street corner. One of the people who live on that street bought the lot behind his and demolished the forest that the lot had before. Now it is just a green patch with a bunch of boats and other random crap parked on it that connects the two streets. People can do whatever they want with their property, I don't particularly care. What comes next though was a real kick in the teeth because I interact with this guy and his grandchildren pretty regularly. don't know his name or him at all really. We will smile and nod at each other walking past, but his grandkids think my dog is adorable and he likes kids, so whenever they get the chance they will slobber all over him and get slobbered on in return. I didn't really know the guy all that well, but I figured what is the harm and took the shortcut. The next day we went for walkies again, and as I am walking past this dude's lot, I notice there is a bunch of big new signs posted that all say "No trespassing," with an addendum at the bottom that had a picture of me walking through the yard holding my dog, which read, "This means you." Very classy. We went on our merry way, and this time I did not let the tantrum work, and we went up and down the street. After a few more cautious days we were able to resume our normal route, and I saw the dude who owns the 2 lots doing something to his lifted truck. I said hi, apologized for walking on his lawn, and asked him very politely if he wouldn't mind taking my picture down from the signs. The guy said nope, you broke the law. I was later told the guy called the police about this and the cops told him to get a life in cop speak. I just gave him a shrug and we kept on walking, no idea if I did break any laws or if him posting signs with my picture is breaking any laws. It was just a little bit annoying and I thought I would take an opportunity to soothe his apparently super rustled jimmies. However, that did not work. Now, when myself and the pooch walk our normal route, this guy's property gets the 1-finger salute from 2 different sides when I walk past. If there is kids playing in his yard, I will abstain, mostly because I'm not that much of an a-hole, but if it is just him or nobody is around, you bet your ass I will match his pettiness with my own. Today I guess he had the grandkids over, but they were inside, and so I gave the cameras the finger as I walked past like I usually do, because I too can be petty. As we reached the end of his street and turned around to start back, I saw him standing in the road with his arms crossed out front of his house, a thundercloud on his brow. When we get within literal shouting distance, he starts the conversation with, "What the hell is your problem anyway? My grandkids just saw you flipping the house off and wanted to know what you were doing." It probably would have escalated there if his grandkids didn't avalanche out of his house shouting my dog's name. The kid's mom, his daughter, came out of the house as well as trying to corral the kids, saying stuff about dinner being ready. When she saw me, she connected some dots and came over to monitor the situation with her kids and the dog because she is a responsible parent. Once normal conversation was possible over the squeals his grandkids were making, I calmly said, "When you take down my picture from your signs, then I will stop." The mom's head snaps up and she says, "Picture? What picture?" I point to the obnoxiously large no trespassing signs with my picture underneath, and her eyes widen and then squint. She asks why I am carrying my dog in the yard, and I explain that my dog's feet got hurt and I cut through the yard to get home when he couldn't walk anymore. She then rolls her eyes and looks at the guy and says, "Dad, you're such an a-hole." She then tells her brood, playtime's over, dinner is ready. Hilariously enough, as they go inside, 2 of the kids flip me and the fuss bucket off. The guy sort of deflates, mumbles a little bit and heads inside himself. I wonder if the pictures will still be up tomorrow. Update, totally forgot about this one, sorry all. The day after this post, the guy took all his signs down. Haven't had a chance to see or talk to him yet. He's been out every time I've been on walkies this week. And yeah, Ripe Stars, sometimes we can be lucky that some sort of crazy neighbor can maybe have a reasonable family member, or daughter in this case, that gives him a much needed reality check. And guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, then please feel free to check out my Patreon over at patreon.com/ripeyoutube, or join my YouTube membership program by clicking the join button to get access to even more exclusive videos. Thank you so much for your support, and I will see you again tomorrow.